Ladies and gentlemen, friends and enemies, welcome to episode 1 of the Risk Factor podcast. I'm your host, Risk Dreams. Thanks for joining me. I'm feeling great. I hope you guys are feeling great as well. I've been working on this podcast, trying to get everything set up. I've had the idea for a little bit now. It's just going to be a Call of Duty podcast. Expect everything Call of Duty League related, reactions, debating, tier list, interviews, hopefully with amateur players, people from the scene, eventually pro players. If we can get them on here, that would be fantastic. We're going to do in-depth statistical analysis, predictions, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm really excited. Hopefully we can probably try and bring some more people on to the podcast, get it a little bit more dynamic. I want to do like some debating, like general conversation, go over different ideas, maybe react to some things. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And I thought the only way that we could actually get this started and would be the best way, Major 3 just wrapped up in Texas, the Optic home major. Of course, Toronto took that one home. Congratulations to them. But I thought the best way that we could start this off is maybe with a tier list, kind of how we're feeling the teams are right now. Not necessarily just a Major 3 tier list, because, of course, we could just rank out who plays first and second and then whatever, but let's try and figure out how we feel the 12 teams are going to be playing right now. Obviously we're going to take the recent events that just happened with Major 3 into account, and that's probably going to persuade our tier list for the majority of how we place these teams. But I think we'll try and see how it pans out. But let me just switch the screen over here. Okay, perfect. All right, so we got the 12 teams. We got S through D. Of course, S tier is the best. D tier is the worst. Not going to necessarily put them in order, like left to right. But we'll set them by the tiers. And I guess we can just start off by going left to right. So we'll start off with the Atlanta Faze, who placed top 3, right? They placed top 3. They lost to Optic, but they've placed third, first, third. They look good in every tournament. They looked pretty good in all their online qualifiers. I mean, I think you're crazy if you don't place these guys in S. I mean, they're pretty much guaranteed top 3, top 2 every single tournament. So if you're not going to place them in S tier, there's got to be some hatred towards them. So S tier is the only one that makes sense for me. I think when you have Simp, that's kind of taking a little bit of a backseat to a BZ, and Simp is, as of recently, probably been the best player in the world. And he's not even number 1 on your team behind a BZ and a Celium. That team's going to be a problem. That team is not going to be someone you want to play against. They're going to be never a free win. That's one thing about the Faze, actually talking about it now. I'm thinking that they're never a free win. They never just troll the whole series. They're competitive every series. And some of these top teams, they'll just once in a while just troll and whatever, but these guys they're something else. So they have to be S tier. There's just no way they're not S tier. Abizi has been insane. Celium has also been insane. And then you have Simp, who, again, has also been insane, but taking a little bit more of a role player role to Abizi and Celium. So at least that's how it feels. And they're still S tier. So there's just nothing else that you can say about them. I'm expecting Major 4 for them again to get top 3. I saw some crazy stat recently where I think Simp has placed top 3 in 25 of his 28 tournaments or something crazy like that. And you think about it and it's yeah, that makes sense, but you don't really think about it until you see it. And it's okay, yeah, he's placed top 3 every time this year. He placed second every event last year except one. They got top 6 or something like that. Cold War, they maybe placed top 3 every event because they were dominant in Cold War with all their first place finishes. When they didn't win, they probably got second or third. I'm trying to remember. Black Ops 4, again, disgusting on E United. They placed top 3 pretty much every event. So it's like this guy Simp just doesn't miss. He does not miss. So yeah, I'm gonna leave them at S tier. We'll probably mess around with some of. We'll change up, higher or lower at the end. But for now, we'll put them at S tier, and I think they're not moving, and rightfully so. Next up, we have Boston Breach, who honestly I don't want to say they surprised me because I feel like this team has some serious potential. I think the only thing that did surprise me was them working together this fast with picking up Beans, and with the methods change with him retiring, because Boston has been a team who has done, I feel like, okay this year, and we've seen glimpses of Nero being absolutely insane, like just the best player on the map at certain points. We've seen Awakening do the same thing this year, past years, where he can just take over games, and bring on Beans, who his first match was a little bit slow, but then after that picked it up. And I'm talking about the qualifiers. Of course, the first match against Optic, he went absolutely insane. I believe he tied the kill record for S&D this year, alongside Simp, if I'm not mistaken. And if I'm not mistaken, it was also on a CeeLo. So that map is just made for people to pop off. You get into their spawn, and you just can't find them. They pop Deddy, and you can't find them. So a CeeLo is just one of those search and destroy maps where once you're feeling it and you're hitting a few good timings, things are going to go your way. But as far as Boston goes, my first initial thought is B. They did place top 4, right? So like you might want to put them in A. But I feel like they're a B team. I think if Vivid can become a little bit more consistent, and I think if Nero can kind of stay at that S tier SMG player that he shows us glimpses of, because sometimes he'll play like he's an Nero play like he's an S tier player, and then other times we'll see Nero where he plays like a C tier player. But if he can consistently stay dominating on maps, in the SMG role, I think we'll see them hit A. I honestly think this team is a dark horse team. I think they can win a championship. I think they could. I feel like if they won a tournament, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. I think it's like a small chance, but I do think they have a far larger chance than some of these other teams. So for now, I'm going to leave them at B, especially off of the back of the methods change. Give these guys a little bit more time, and we'll probably see them continue to ascend the ladder and maybe take A or S, who knows. Florida, this team has been struggling all year long. They seem to not be able to get it together. They beat New York, right? They beat New York, and then they lost to, I believe, Surge. Who did they lose to? I believe I have it here. Oh, they lost to Optic. Right. They lost to Optic. And they beat New York 3-1, which I was very surprised about. We'll talk more about New York, but I can't believe they lost to the Mutineers like that. This team, they just have to be a D list team, a D tier team. They just constant roster rotations. They try and make it work, but it just never works. They never even show glimpses of it working. They'll win a few matches here and there. I'm pretty sure they're not looking good for champs. They're fighting for that 8th spot, but it's not going to be guaranteed. It's not going to be easy. Even if they do qualify for champs, which I honestly feel like they're not going to, they'll probably get 8th, but that's even if they do qualify. I don't really even have much to say about the Mutineers. I feel like you guys have probably all seen top 12, top 8, top 12. So we'll leave them at D for now. The Gorillas, this past weekend we saw RCs have to be subbed out for Marky B. Marky B subbed out for Spart. feels bad. This team I felt like was like a C tier team, maybe even a B tier team. We were seeing them do their thing, man. They were not a pushover of a squad, but this past tournament they got destroyed. I feel bad for Alec. He went on to Scum stream afterwards, and he mentioned that there was something wrong with his hand, with his thumb. So apparently he wasn't able to really play at any sort of potential that he is capable of. So he thought it would be best for him to be subbed out for the remainder of that match. He had a really rough tournament. I think he had like a .6 or something like that. Yeah, in the past, I feel like I would have put them B tier, but now after this past tournament, I believe in the qualifiers they went 3-2 or they went 2-3. Um, but regardless, I think I'm gonna put them in the C tier. Exceed has been looking pretty good recently. I mean, he's been looking nasty with the sniper. We saw him pull off some crazy things on Embassy Search when they were playing against, I believe it was New York, or not New York. I believe it was against who was it? Was it Legion or was it Surge? I think it was Surge. Yeah, I think it was the map 5 versus Surge on Embassy, and he was just top office and he was going insane with with the sniper. But I think you got a bunch of rookies on the team: Joe Deceives, Exceed, Arcides, obviously being a vet now, which is actually crazy to think of that. Arcides being a vet. People like Arcides is now a vet. People like Simp, I feel like you could consider a vet, right? Like, there's a lot of new talent in the league. So as the new talent comes in, what was new talent is no longer new talent. So I think I'm gonna have to put them in the C tier. They get top 12, not good at all, but I don't want to put them in the D tier with Florida. So I think they're C for now. Los Angeles Thieves. The Thieves have been a roller coaster, man. Really, they did really well at the Boston Major. Almost completed the run. Losing to Faze, of course, so they get second. Everyone had them as an S tier team. They seem to be in form like last year, but I don't know, man. I feel like that Boston Major, I really do feel like Optic absolutely trolled their series versus the Thieves, and I feel like Optic could have been taking that place of the Thieves and continuing on into a further run on Sunday. And if Thieves I can't remember if Optic played them for 4th or for 3rd, but regardless, if the Thieves didn't make the finals, I don't think anyone really would have had them in the S tier at that time, probably A or B. But after this past weekend, getting knocked out by Vegas, they got absolutely destroyed. It was, I believe, the biggest comeback of the year for a hardpoint match. Vegas pulled off on a Hotel versus the Thieves. I'm not sure if it was the biggest hardpoint comeback of the year, or the tournament or whatever, but it was an insane. It was like a 120-point comeback. I'm sure you guys saw it. Clayster popped that 3-piece on the stair glitch heady. Too Real, TJ all started popping off right at the end at the perfect time for them to complete the comeback. I feel like, I don't want to put them B. I think A is fair. I really do think A is fair. In the past, maybe people would have had them S. I feel like I would keep them A. I don't think I really ever had them in S. I feel like Atlanta Faze previously was the only team that I felt like deserved that S tier slot. I think the Thieves are on A. B doesn't sound terrible to me either. I feel like if there was a tier in between these two, I would put them there. I really do. Maybe at the bottom of A tier or whatever. I'm not gonna order them, but A for now. We'll put them A for now. At times we'll watch Kenny be insane, and then we'll watch Kenny just be terrible. Sometimes we'll watch Octane drop 12 kills on hard points. Sometimes we'll watch him drop 0. The only person on this team that I feel like has been really consistent is Envoy, because this whole year Draza to me has been the best player on this team. But then this past tournament, in Texas, he he was not in his bag. So Envoy had continued to play pretty well. So I don't know, man. I feel like they can get it together, but it's just so tough to see a team place, you know, okay and then really well and then not so good. It's tough to put these guys in a slot. I feel like my brain says B, but my heart says A. So I'm kind of torn. I'm gonna leave them in A for now. We'll see if they move. Um, they got some things they need to work on for sure. They don't really seem to be dominant at any game mode necessarily. So I feel like with a few more reps, and if they can get like a staple game mode, whether it be hardpoint or search, that they can just absolutely count on for wins, then I feel like they'll be good. Like we see Faze, they are lights out going to win the search and destroys, right? We saw them lose their search and destroy their search streak to Toronto, so they lost one search, but before that they won like what 13 in a row, 14 in a row. You don't even need to do something insane like that, but even if you're winning 80% or 75% of search or hardpoint, where you can just really count on winning those two in any given series versus any team, it just gives you an insane edge. You just got to win one control or one of the opposite game mode, and you're moving on. So I'm gonna leave them in A for now. We'll leave them in there for now. Vegas Legion started in the lower bracket, and they placed, I believe, top 6 after beating Thieves, losing to Boston, if I'm not mistaken. I really like this team, man. I can't lie. As a fan, I'm a big fan of the Legion. Um, they've yet to start in winners bracket. I think I saw, like, as an organization, they have yet to start in winners bracket. Um, they actually had a 2-3 record going into the major. Online, they were 2-3, and I believe there was 2 other teams that were 2-3, or 3 other teams that were 2-3, and if I'm not mistaken, Gorillas was one of them. But since Gorillas went like they won 10 maps and lost 9, and then whatever they had a better map win loss than Vegas, so they got the seeding. They got the 8th spot. So it feels bad that we haven't been able to see them start in winners bracket because they're going into tournaments, and you're starting on your back foot, right? You have one bad series and it's over. We've seen Vegas beat good teams. We've seen them now beat Thieves. We've seen them beat Optic before. I believe we've seen them beat New York before. So they're capable of winning, big matches. It's just they're not able to get the back to back. And they're definitely not consistent by any means. So they're definitely a middle of the pack team for me. I feel like B is fair. I think this team has a lot of potential. Clayster has been doing really well. Actually, he's been doing really well, but Temp has been he's been his normal self, honestly, being like an S tier player. Temp's been really just dominating on his AR. And I think the struggle for this team comes really from, of course, they just made the change for Too Real. Well, they didn't just make the change, but they made a change for Too Real, dropping Prolute, who was really struggling. Too Real, I feel like he's capable, man. I don't think they need to change him because I feel like if you drop Too Real for someone else, I don't see this team necessarily just jumping up and all of a sudden becoming a top 4 team. I think you kind of stick it out with him because he's showing promise. There are matches or series where he really does pop off and he's the difference maker. He's just a little bit inconsistent. Some games he won't do nearly as well. Same thing with TJ. We'll see him have really great search and destroys, but the respawns they're not great. They're really not. And I kind of feel like that is the story of this Vegas team. Like the search and destroys are really nice at. You have Clayster and TJ who are 2 vets. I mean, even Temp at this point. Well, Temp's definitely a vet. Obviously, he's been playing since what? Like the earliest I can remember is AW, but he has been, they're just a search team, man. Really, if they can figure out how to start winning some of the hard points, even start winning some of the controls, which they do here and there, and that's how they squeeze out some of these victories. That's why a lot of the times they go to map, um, they win map 5 or they lose 3-1 because they're gonna either lose the hard point, or if they survive past the hard point, they're gonna win that map 5. So I think B is fair. Do I think it makes sense that Vegas and Boston are on the same tier? Um, not not really. Damn. Now that I look at it like that, not really. I feel like Boston should be higher than them. I'll leave it here for now. This next one is a given. These guys have been terrible. They've just been bad. There's just no way to put it. They are, I'm pretty sure, like, not making champs by any means. In order for them to make champs, they'd have to, like, win twice in a row, or, like, get top 3 twice in a row. And that's just not going to happen for this team. They pushed Optic to a game 5. They honestly kind of trolled against Optic. They could have beaten them, and look at them. They went on to place top 2. So you can never say never, but from everything that they've shown us, I believe we saw that they're making a roster move with Paul X, so they're going to be dropping Paul X and picking up someone else. I'm not sure who that someone else is, but we've seen reports or leaks, whatever, that Paul X is going to be moving on, or they're going to be moving Paul X to a bench role or dropping him, or whatever the case may be. I don't think it's going to save this team. It's too little, too late. I feel like it's not been good enough. They picked up scraps, of course. They made that change, and they still same placings, top 12, over and over again. So, it feels bad for the London Royal Ravens, especially being our only like European team or whatever, right? Even though like Toronto's more of a European team, it feels at times with all the European players. But I do feel bad for the Ravens. But D tier is really all you can put them at. They're not really going to win many series against any of these teams. I mean, they may win one map here or there. I think we see them go 1-4 or 0-5 in their qualifier so far. They have like 60 CDL points or 70 CDL points. So to win 7 matches the entire year is not great, especially when you're given 15 just at qualifiers so far. So even if you won half of those, that's your 70 points right there, or 80 points right there. So D tier. I'm actually kind of sad to see Paul X go. When he was on this New York team last year, I mean, he looked like a really, really good player. He got picked up. New York started to do really well. They picked up they picked up Paul X and Kismet. So to see him go to London Royal Ravens with Asim, who was another player who I was really high on. I honestly thought this London team had like a chance to be what this Boston team is. Going into this year, seeing Asim and Paul on the same team, I was really excited, honestly. I can't lie. And then they have Nasty, who at times was like, if I'm not mistaken, last year he was like the online warrior. So I know they had troubles on land, but he showed that at least online he could, do some serious damage. I honestly thought that this London team could have been what this Boston team was, but they just fell flat, and they're not going to pick it back up. Even if they start to, it's too late, like I said. So we're going to leave them at D tier. They're probably the bottom of D tier at that. So moving on to New York, this team is a little funky, right? They win Major 1. Major 2, Boston, a lot of teams had travel issues. We saw them get to the event the day before. And I believe Priesta got to the event the night of. I believe he got there at like 2 a.m. In the morning before their matches. So like he was off of 0 practice for probably the week, right? Because normally teams travel on like Tuesday. So Monday's probably like their last day to scrim, and that's if they decide to scrim on Monday. And then he was probably having travel issues from Tuesday to Thursday. He got there Thursday morning. Probably wasn't able to scrim in the morning because he was sleeping. And if he did decide to wake up and scrim. He was on little sleep. So, I mean, this New York team I felt like was destined for failure, Major Two, and we saw that they did not place well at all. But off of the Major One win, I still have them as an A tier team. But now Major Three, we saw them go 3-2 on the online qualifier. So they started winners bracket. So I was like, okay, I mean 3-2 is not bad. No one's really going 5-0. We even see Atlanta Faze, I believe, went 3-2 or 4-1, and Surge went 4-1. So to go in 3-2, that's not bad, right? You're just trying to secure winners bracket. So I was like, okay, cool. They're gonna get winners bracket. They'll probably get top 4. But that wasn't the case. Trying to remind myself who they lost to. Ultra and then Mutineers. Right, exactly. So they actually beat Mutineers in their online qualifiers, but when they come up against the Mutineers when it comes to the tournament in Texas, they fall short. Losing to Toronto Ultra isn't necessarily a surprise. Toronto has been really good the entire year, I feel like. And of course they went on to win the tournament. So for them to lose to Toronto, it happens, right? The winners bracket is the winners bracket for a reason. People are going to get knocked out that are good, and they get sent down to losers. But then for them to lose and then go on to the Mutineers and lose again, it's concerning. That's 2 tournaments in a row that they have not placed well. And in years past, I mean, even last year, Major 1, we saw Optic Texas win. They won their own major, and this has happened in years past where there'll be a team that wins a Major 1, or they win the first major tournament of the year, pre-CDL, whatever, and then they go on throughout the year and they kind of just digress a little bit here and there because other teams start to catch up. And I'm starting to think that may have been this New York team. They just picked up the game really quickly. They kind of figured it out. But as these other teams start to figure it out as well, they're starting to counter New York really, really well. And New York aren't able to come up with some counterattacks to retake that throne as the best team in the game. So I feel like, obviously not C or D. A or B for me is kind of like where I'm thinking. But to put them again at the same tier as Vegas, I mean, this might be the problem. I feel like this might look better. I don't want to put them at A tier. I really don't. We saw them have 2 bad placings back to back. I kind of think it would be disrespectful to Boston to place these guys above. But they just got last place. So, geez, I mean, is that really just how it is? Is Vegas and New York just the same tier of a team now? Like, it just looks wrong. But then you think about it, and it's like Vegas goes 2-3 in the qualifiers. New York goes 3-2. So they were one series separate from each other. But at least Vegas got top 6, and New York got last. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm going to leave it like this for now. Hydra has looked like the best player in the game at times. But then, everyone else on the team seems to fall short. Priesta, I feel like, I mean, I'm happy for Priesta. I'm happy he won Major 1 because these past few years, it hasn't been great for him. And especially coming off of Faze in Modern Warfare, where things were really looking good, and then going to the Rocker, and it was like kind of shaky. I'm happy that he was able to pick it up, but Skies, same thing. On that Mutineers team, never really got anything going. So I'm happy for these guys that they found some success. I just don't see them repeating this success for me. I feel like they're not a pushover of a squad, even though they did just lose to Mutineers. They won a major. Like, we have to count that for something. They're just so weird. They feel like the surge of late. They feel like the surge of last year, the year before that, where they win a tournament and then they get last, and then they win a tournament and then they get last, and then whatever, right? So I'm going to put them at, damn, this is tough. They got the bulldog, man. They got that dog in them. I'm gonna put them at B. I'm gonna put them at B. I feel like I can't not put them at B. Just gonna put them there. We'll mess with that at the end if we have to. Rocker, Minnesota Rocker. Let's see. They get 0-5 in the online qualifiers, and then they lose their first series to who they play. They lost their series to Thieves, right? 3-0. It was not close. These guys have been going through a blender, just an absolute blender. They are they got 0 points for this stage. I believe they're at 110 CDL points, if I am remembering correctly. They were like looking really good, but then they got 0 points. So now they're kind of that squad that teams are looking at. They're the squad that Gorillas, that Vegas are looking at to try and take that eighth seed to go into champs. So these guys have been not good at all. I don't know. I feel like I can't put them at D tier. We've seen them, do a few things in the past. We've seen them place decently. We've seen them do okay online, but it's tough, right? Because it's like, how much weight do you want to put into recency? Because recency, I mean, they got dead last. They didn't win a single series, right? So, but we've seen previously that they are capable of winning matches. So I feel like I'll put them as C. Some of you might not agree with me, but whatever, right? We'll put them here. This team I felt like was a team that was supposed to be good. Like, they got a lot of good players on their team. You have Cammy, who was like probably a top 3 player in Cold War. You have Afro, who was also probably like a top 5, top 8 player of, the past few games. He has been really kind of carrying that London team. So to see these guys together alongside Attach, who's now probably one of the most tenured players in the league, the only person to stay on this Rocker team through the past few years, and to come out and start the year pretty well, but to now fall flat. I don't think they're even really making a change. If what I've seen is correct, I believe they're sticking it out with this squad. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll leave them at C for now. They got toasted throughout the tournament, so we'll leave them there. Surge, man, this is a team that's fun to watch. They really are a fun team to watch. And I think my thought is A. I think they're an A tier team. I mean, if you look at their road, they beat Gorillas 3-2. I mean, it was a pretty close series. They took Faze to a map 5, who went on to get third. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay, I was trying to see if they lost Game 5 Round 11, and it was a Game 5 Round 11. So this Surge team, they won the Hotel Control, they won the Fortress Hardpoint, and then lost Embassy Surge. This Surge team has been pretty impressive. After they lost to Faze, of course, they lose to Optic, but they lost to the number 2 and number 4 seed. I feel like they're an A tier team. They had the number 1 seed going into this tournament. They went 4-1 alongside another squad as well. I think it was Faze, but they had a better map record. I feel like A's fair. Pred has looked like, again, top 3 player in the game. Definitely top 3 sub. For me, it's like Pred, Hydra, maybe got to be someone from this Faze squad. I'm not sure whether it be a BZ or probably a BZ. I know Celium, I think statistically has been better, but I just feel like the gameplay out of a BZ is more impactful. So I do feel that Pred, the Hydra, and a BZ have been probably the top 3 players. At least it seems like, top 3 players so far this game. And so I think putting Surge at A is fair. We've seen them place fairly decently so far this year. They seem clear for champs as far as CDL points is concerned. They have one of the best players in the game. We see at times Mac can really pop off, and when Mac pops off, I hate to say that when Mac pops off, this team can place well. It just it feels like that you won't get that pop off from accuracy, so you kind of need it from Mac. Same thing with Sib. He doesn't always play well the way that Pred seems to always play well. So if Sib and Mac can continue to improve a little bit, this team can win championships. They absolutely can win championships. So to move on to Ultra, I feel like you have to put them in S tier. They're off of the win, right? It's got to feel good. They beat, I believe they beat Faze in the winners bracket. They beat, of course, Optic in the finals. Who they played before that? Oh, I'm sorry, they didn't beat Faze. They beat Breach. So they beat New York, Breach, Faze, Optic. Right? So they beat the top 4 squad, which is Breach. They beat Optic. They beat. Oh yeah, they beat Faze right here. They pretty much beat everybody. They beat the second place team, of course, to win. They beat the third place team to send them down to losers. They beat the fourth place team, which is Breach. They beat New York. I mean, they really beat no bottom tier teams, right? They beat no bottom tier teams. Everyone that they beat was on the upper echelon of our tier list. So these guys are S tier. Scrappy has been looking absolutely insane. They pick up Pixie, who I honestly thought after dropping Sandy, picking up Pixie, that this team was going to kind of flatten out a little bit. Maybe not be S tier or maybe not even A tier. I felt like after making a roster change, they could have been sitting around this B tier spot. But they made it click instantly, and they went on a tear. It looked scary for a moment there for them in that finals when the series was tied 2-2 and Optic seemed like they were about to close out that hotel search, but they mounted a comeback. S tier just makes a lot of sense for this Toronto squad. Like I said, you have Scrappy, who's been going absolutely insane, having an MVP like season, gets MVP of the tournament. Insight has been doing his thing, man. Really have no complaints. And then you have Kleenex, who has just absolutely started popping off ever since they picked up Ixie. I feel like there had to have been some sort of pacing issue or play style issue where Kleenex, was kind of getting torched at times. But ever since, he has been back to his Cold War self, where he's absolutely dominating. So I think S tier just makes a lot of sense for these guys. They're second place in CDL points behind Faze. I think they're only like 10 points behind. So it would actually be pretty crazy if we see Ultra take that number 1 spot, because I'm not sure if we've ever seen someone else have a first place seed going into champs other than Faze. Last year, I'm pretty sure they were first with all those second place finishes. I believe the year before that too, they were first in Cold War. And then Modern, I'll have to go back and look at that, but Toronto Ultra have been really impressive all year long, coming off of a first place finish, so S tier makes a lot of sense. And finally, the last squad that we are waiting on, it's got to be A tier or S tier, right? And I think I'm gonna put them in S tier. And I'm gonna do this for a certain reason. They get second place, so they obviously deserve S tier as of recently. And then coming off the back of that, they got fourth place at the Boston Major to Thieves. And like I mentioned earlier, I really think that they had 2 different games that they could have closed out the series and been moving on, but they just absolutely mega threw. You even saw like an Octane stream afterwards. He said that Optic threw really bad. So for them to be placing fourth and then second, honestly, they looked like they could have even won this. Like I said, their series was tied 2-2. They're on hotel search, and Optic was up, I believe, 4-1 or 4-2 round count, and they could have closed it out, but unfortunately they didn't for them. Shotzi has been looking like MVP Shotzi. He went on an absolutely disgusting tear versus Faze. I feel like ever since they beat that London team, it was just lights out for Optic. They looked like a scary squad. I honestly thought they were going to come out and smoke Ultra. So props to them for, holding their own, getting the series tied 2-2, and then, of course, closing out the last two games to win 4-2, because Optic looked like a different type of team. Dashy was doing his normal self. Well, I wouldn't say normal self, because I feel like Dashy is normally like his normal self is like MVP Dashy. Well, I don't think that's what we're getting from him this year. I think we're getting like an S tier Dashy, but not like a super S tier Dashy. So for Dashy and Shotzi to be doing their thing consistently, getting them to these Sundays, and they haven't been able to close out yet, but I'm pretty sure they will soon. Or if not, they'll continue to be getting into Sunday. So for this team, I think Faze Ultra Optic S makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I didn't mention it, but of course they pick up Ghosty, they drop Illy. There was a lot of question marks, but there was a big difference. It seemed like there really was. They looked really comfortable, and their hardpoint has been insane. Of course, they lose their hardpoint streak to Ultra, and the Ultra also beat Faze's streak. So Ultra, honestly, if we were to be doing left to right, I feel like this would be the current left to right for S tier. But I'm not gonna do left to right. But if there was to be, that's how I kind of see it. They pick up Ghosty, who was kind of doing his thing, man. He had like a slow start, but he started to pick it up. You can see it in his communication. You can see it with the way that he plays so selfless, that he's really trying to push his teammates to be the best they can. And in return, they're winning him games. They're winning the team games. So he's just a great teammate so far from what I see. And that's the exact same thing that I have to say from Hook. There was a Hydro hardpoint listening where Hook was he just seemed like he knew exactly what was going on. He was always in the comms. He's always getting hyped. Two-piece hyped. He's getting his team hyped. He's been playing really well. He did not look like the Hook on Gorillas by any means necessary. Like, not at all. I mean, they let him walk away for free, right? So if he was looking like this, they wouldn't have let him walk away for free. And he did. So I was kind of skeptical of the Hook pickup at first, especially, getting rid of Scump and whatnot. Like, he wasn't really playing too well on Gorillas. But I am excited for this squad. I am super excited for this squad. They look really good. They just formed, and I think it just gets better. They're third place in points right now, so they're guaranteed pretty much champs. The next major is coming up pretty soon, I believe, in like the open. I keep saying open. The online qualifiers start, I believe, in a week or so. And then we'll see that go through, and then we'll see the Ohio tournament happen. But this is the tier list. Let me know if you guys would change anything. Thank you for coming into episode 1. We'll be doing different things. This is just one thing that we can do is, a tier list. So I'll have more episodes coming out soon. Don't necessarily have a schedule, but thanks for coming, guys. This has been fun, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.